Hi guys, it's Aegis here. So today I'm here with another D-standard deck profile, and finally it's time for me to cover my Blue Zorga build. I've been doing the red one, so you already saw that build, and so far it's still the same with only slightly changes. So unless you really want to see that, you can comment down below and let me know. Then I can also do a upgrade version of it and show you guys. And since next set, the BT12 is coming in like next week, so I think it's time to let me at least conclude all the Zorga builds that I do before we go into the next set, while we might actually find something that is tempting to use and I can upgrade from there, right? So it's like a different set. When we see different orders, we test it. If it's something that we can use them in there, we put it in. If not, then we can just leave it as is. So I'm like making my red cards here. You can just see how my Zorga deck changes from here and there, red and blue, because I have both decks actually playable together, so I don't need to switch cards around, which is a good thing, right? So Blue Zorga is with less power while on himself. Once you go to Masque, it's basically the same, but when you're comparing the red and the blue one, usually the blue one doesn't have extra power boost, but you don't need to do a lot of things in order to Alchemy Magic, because it's a built-in. You can just do Alchemy Magic. That's all that matters. And you can counterblast one to bring them back, and sometimes when you are trying to go into a longer game, like when you're playing against Gandiva, that if you rush them too much, they will have a lot of resources to hit you a lot harder back. So usually in that case, you will just do it slowly. You can just do little pokes, give damage one by one, like once per turn, so that they don't have a lot of counterblast to do a lot of stuff, limiting their move. That's how you keep maintaining advantage, surviving, and finding a good place, a good spot, and start to keep pressuring them back, so that they will just lose while not having resources, and also need to give you a lot of cards to guard. So Blue Zorga allows you to do that, while Red Zorga does not allow you to do that, because you will run out of gas very soon, so you need to really go very fast. So if it is a more competitive choices when you're looking into Zorga deck, most people will go for the blue one. But if you ask me which one is more fun, I would say the red one, because you just have a lot more to think of while also caring if you're running out of gas. This usually won't, so that's the thing. And the right line is just the Zorga right line. Since I've got the full SPs, there's no way I'm not using this right line, especially the 0. Some people use other ones that they like, but it really doesn't matter. The most mattering ones are these two. Ranger Chain allows you to ditch an order, draw 2. So of course you draw 2 first, and then you hopefully ditch an order. If not, you ditch 2 cards. Even sometimes ditch 2 cards, like worse than worse, you can still find something that can reborn. So it's not that bad. But with our current ratio of orders, I haven't seen that happen. I haven't been needed to drop 2 cards, so it's totally fine with me. And since we are not using the Red Zorga, so we actually need the Hush Dragon to help us to pick one back, just in case we run out of orders in hand while having a lot in drop. We do have ways to pick up orders, but a free one, who doesn't want that? And this gives you a way to just do things slowly, because if you are playing like how we normally rush with Zorga, we do like 2 Prison Dragons with crit and keep hitting. Those are for like very rushing plays. But when you only want to like apply 1 damage to your opponent, then instead of a Prison Dragon, this is a better choice. And what you need to do is just Soul Blast this card and reborn it. So it's not hard at all. So I see HASATA Dragon having more usage in nowadays compared to before, while we are actually replacing HASATA Dragon with something that we can utilize, that when reborn we can do some stuff. So it's good to see him back. And next, I am of course running 4 of the secret rares, Zorga Masque. It cost me a lot for sure, but I don't regret it at all. Zorga Masque is something that actually brings Zorga to the next level, bring him a lot easier entering the meta to a competitive stage, because you don't need to care about having the same order in your hand and drop. You can just alchemy magic whatever order that is a normal order to do whatever you want, and you have a chance to remove from play one of the non-Zorga Masque Zorga, which is basically the one copy here of the Blue Zorga, to pick up an order or pick up a unit, reborn it. So this saves you from kind of running out of gas to let you at least being able to do alchemy magic a turn, and the 10k to front row will apply because you play alchemy, you do alchemy magic, which is important because sometimes I just jump into Zorga Masque if I'm going first. I don't care about the personal right. Of course, the personal right to front row is very, very important. If you are pushing your opponent so hard, you want them to drop all their cards in hand, that 10k helps. But if you're going first, while opponent's still on grade 2 with 10k, a plus 10k to the front row, if you are using like also Clouded Miasma for an extra 5k boost, that's a total 15k difference. And just that, with a 10k attacker, can at least ask your opponent to draw a 20k card. And if you are like reborning a HASATA Dragon, you just need to go into a Zorga Masque and do your alchemy magic. That's already a 15k plus to be a 25k. So even if they get a defensive trigger, they cannot just say a 5k card. They still need to give you more. And that's what I do sometimes. But what I still prefer to, of course, is like going second and then use my mask from the drop to person right into Zorga Masque, plus 10k with a person right, do alchemy magic plus another 10k. That's a 20k difference, and that is a big turn for you, and you just need to keep person riding and do your stuff. So this really saves the deck for a lot. Of course, we don't get like a constant reviving or constant picking up orders, but we do have a lot of tools to actually do that instead, while keeping our main focus to power up a front row, make them scary, make your opponents hard to just simply drop a card and call it a day. That's all we need to be happy about with the next Zorga. And then for Prison Dragons, we just love Prison Dragons. He is a good damage chaser. He is a good target for your opponents to touch. Of course, if you're playing against Jet, they will just send you to the bottom of the deck, but this deck doesn't require Prison Dragon always be on the field, because I do have some games like I didn't see Prison Dragon until I do the final blow. So if you don't see it, don't panic. The deck can handle itself. You just need to do it bit by bit. Make sure you look at your opponent's damage, their resources, what they have, and just slowly build it up. And when you see the Prison Dragon, while opponent is 4 damage, bring it out, swing for it with a big attack with crit. They just need to give you the cards. And if you see it early, great, just use it for the right deck cost, and you get a chance to just play a normal order and bring 1 to 2 Prison Dragon back, plus 10k, rush your opponents. That's still another way. So again, with or without Prison Dragon, you will be fine. But of course, as a common strategy, we are still using 4 Prison Dragons. Next, for Shadow Cloak, you just need it. It brings you every single order piece that you need. it applies the early pressure. Because again, if your opponent's on grade 2, you're going first, you go to Zorga Masque, you then have this. It's already a 20k, and you just need to do Alchemy Magic, and you can Soul Blast 1, bouncing unit back plus 5k. This is another 25k. That's good enough to apply pressure to your opponent. And this card has multiple functions. Of course, one is being a chance to do 25k early game. Second is it's Soul Blast and bounce a card, so you can just like keep recycling triggers for defensive, an OT that gets into your hand that can keep recycle it. PG, you can recycle it. Personal ride, you can Soul Blast it and then call it back to the field and bounce it back to your hand and personal riding again. So Shadow Cloak, I don't see a reason we need to drop it to 3 or less. You just need 4. The bouncing is great, and also this prepares you the order you need to Alchemy Magic. This is what we are very happy to see Shadow Cloak back in BD2, that we BD3 actually BD3 that we get to Alchemy Magic for what we want to, instead of just waiting for a specific card come to our hand and ditch it, right? And since we are playing Mask deck, having a Mask in the drop zone to activate it and just go into your Mask is very important. And so far, only Stoichia is allowing you to directly ditch the Mask into the drop zone and go for the play. So I think this is still a must 4-off. You can see there are many like of the 4-offs, but this I don't see you can cut. Prison Dragon, if you really want to cut, you can. Some people also cut into Zorga Masque, but I think the keep person riding issue is actually quite good, and worst of the worst, I can still play him out as say attacker and then bounce him back when I need to. So far there's still a 4-offs. Next, 1 Q Severing. So this is a multiple attacker, but if you see my Red Zorga build, I'm actually doing 2 of them because I am going for a more aggressive play, and this makes a difference. But in here, we see it as a good to have. It's not a must, and you don't always get to generate the Dragon Tree marker, because with Zorga Masque and with your key Severing, the issue is you first need to have this somehow goes into the drop, and second you need to make a Dragon Tree marker. So you need to wait a lot of cards, but this deck, even if we are doing 3 attacks, we are still doing sufficient amount of attacks while still being scary, not running out of our resources so easily. And when we see this card, when we see a Dragon Tree marker, we can just prepare. And so far with this build, I only need to use it once or twice. That's good enough. And sometimes I don't need this card at all, but it's still a good to have, because sometimes if your opponents always see you doing 3 attacks and think that you're doing a 3 attacks build, and all of a sudden this card goes in the drop, everything change. So you should give yourself a chance to switch gears to do a different play from 3 attacks to 4 attacks. At least you let that to happen, right? Next, 3 PGs, also a placeholder PG. I am starting to see people to change this back to this. Probably is because of like you don't see so much Great Force, you don't see so much with triple drive, so you don't get a chance to just ditch it as a 1-card PG while you have a lot of hands. And second is you since this card is functioning as a normal PG most of the time, especially against Gandiva, that when you keep ditching cards for PGs or for just normal guarding, you still need to keep a card in order to use this. But the normal PGs, you can just squeeze your hand to one and the spring, and then you just throw the PG. That's it. You can do that. But this one you can't. But I still want to dodge some of the like guard restrictions. So I'm still using it, but it's up to you. If you want to change it to another copy, that's totally fine. Because I'm arguing inside myself as well, but I so far still prefer a like an out when I get guard restricted. So it's still here. And then two of the Dragon Tree Wretch Bis Ayatwas. So I just call it the cow. He brings you the Dragon Tree marker, and so far you can see I'm only using this card to generate Dragon Tree marker, so you don't see this come up very often because I don't have that much resource generations. Some people use the grade 2 and they prefer the grade 2 because it not only gives you a Dragon Tree marker, it also gives you a mask, a order directly into your hand. That's fine as well, but I personally like this more because this I can just simply find a way to reborn it, like no matter it's a counterblast or a remove a Blue Zorga to bring it back, and I just need to counterblast one to generate a Dragon Tree marker, or I can just use the active skill to counterblast my Soul Blast one to grab a normal order back. And we do have a lot of orders, or many times that an order will go into our soul, and if we don't find a way to Soul Blast them before we do Alchemy Magic, sometimes we will run out of stuff. Because Shadow Cloak, you can only Soul Blast one after you resolve your Alchemy Magic, basically. So you can't do the Soul Blast before you consider what to do for Alchemy Magic, but this card makes it possible. And you can Soul Blast that order, pick an order up, right? Which means if you already have an order in drop, just this card and a counterblast and a Soul Blast, which is an order, you are ready for playing Alchemy Magic immediately just by doing that. Right? So that's the reason I like the cow more. If you prefer the grade 2, of course you can go for that. You definitely can go for that because that can grab you an order and you can still Soul Blast an order for that. You can still do it, but I don't see myself having the grade 2 in front most of the time, because I will still be using Prison Dragons most of the time, and I will be using like Shadow Cloak or Hush Dragon. So I have enough grade 2s to do the work, while I don't have a lot of back rows to adjust the number from the 5s to 3s. So 5s, which are like 15, 25, 35, 45, right? And 3s usually will be 23, 33, 43. Because these are all 5s, and also the Hush Dragon is a 5s, or maybe the 10s. And in order to make your opponents to be annoying with the numbers, here are the 8s. The 8s will turn them into 3s, turn them into 8s, and just that little number already changes how they go from easier guarding to harder in guarding. So I still prefer the grade 1s, and it's up to you again which one you like, but I make my choice. I'm happy with it, and when they come, they come, because I do have a lot of searches in order to make that happen. Next, find drink of abolishments for sins. Now at first I don't see this order being very important. Like early stage, when this card releases, what we can usually get is like, it can be a 10 to 15k defensive. But when I actually run this deck and using this card, imagine like after the first turn of me going to a Blue Zorga or to a Zorga Masque while dropping a lot of cards, right? And when I use this card, I can actually go to somewhere like 25 to 30k defense just by this card, and this card brings you a card into your hand because you draw one. The only problem is it leads to Soul Blast 1, and if you are facing against Sarah Snow, this card is basically a dead card because you won't have a soul at all if they go once they go into the Great Force, and it's so easy to go into that right now. So if you see that, then you probably need to just ditch this card for something else. But larger times, when you have souls, you don't only get a high defensive just by this card. You get to like using this to Soul Blast the normal order that you put into your soul, so that you can ready to pick them up, ready to use them as alchemy magic. That's already helping you a lot, while being a big shield sometimes. Not always, but at least you get a chance. And sometimes just a big shield is good enough to save you even for a one pass. Like if you're pumping 30k with this shield, making your Vanguard into a 43k, at least you can do a one pass for a 33k. Right? So it's still making things a lot more comfortable, I would say. So I like using this card, but do note that this and this are both Blue Zorgas, and that's also another reason why people are using full PGs instead of one of the Blue Zorga. So as long as you can sort this thing out, I think this 2 Blue Zorga ratio is still fine, and some people even go for 2 of these. But since I'm usually just playing with my friends while trying to think a little bit more competitive, I can see Sarah Snow being a problem, so I'd rather play it safe and do it this way. Yeah. So far, 1 is doing me good, and I'm happy with it. Okay. Now, next will be a good order. It's a regulars piece. Orbital Surrogates. Now, in the past we will be actually using the Holy Grail, but now we are totally picking this card for a lot of reasons. One, even though this card is only a once per game, you can just simply ditch it with Shadow Cloak and be ready for it. And 2, it brings from a drop zone and deck 2 graveyard cards we don't want to grave for, so 2 graveyard cards with different names, and you already see what they are. Zorga Masque in your Prison Dragon. Call them on board. Now, why this is good is because you can call a Prison Dragon when you don't even see one, so you can at least make one happen. You're gonna prepare for the next turn, right? And you get yourself a Zorga Masque on the board. And after you do the alchemy magic, you Soul Blast 1, bounce the Zorga Masque into your hand. Now, if you have a Mask in your drop zone, you already fulfill the requirement to go into Zorga Masque, right? If you are ready on Zorga Masque, you can bounce an extra copy back to your hand, which guarantee you to do personal right. Because we have Shadow Cloak, we just make the bouncing meaningful. Not only with triggers, not only with PGs, we can bounce that person right, we use them again, and you squeeze your deck, so that meaning you will be easier to see your triggers, because this directly take 2 cards out from your deck, unless you don't have one of each in your deck, but at least you can get to squeeze one, right? So what I would suggest is you play this order early game, and if you don't want to make yourself or your opponents to sort a lot of here and there, can you do it once per turn, can you just play it once and then just alchemy magic with it and not play. In fact, if you want to avoid all these annoying things, put this in the drop zone, alchemy magic with it, bind it, let it be. Then this card will not worry you at all, and that's what I usually do, because I don't want to, like, when you are like arguing with this card and it suddenly goes into timeout, because that can happen. Don't let your opponents have a chance to just arguing you here and there. I use it once, it's binded, you don't need to care about that card anymore. That's what I suggest. And then of course we have 2 masks. Just great. I tried to use 1 copy for a while, and when it goes to damage zone, it is so bad. And yeah, and if I have 2, I get a chance to have 1 in my drop, have 1 in my hand. I just go into Zorga Masque, and then I can still play a mask, right? So being able to search this out is important, and using mask from the drop zone to go into your Zorga Masque is the key strategy. So unless you're that unlucky, your opponents go into crit and both of them are masked, then of course GG's. If not, then if 1 goes into your damage, you at least have another one. So I still prefer to use 2 after play testing with 1. So I don't see myself going back to 1. And then Clouded Miasma, 2 of them. I use it sometimes, not like every single turn, but this plus Zorga Masque can be a simple 15k plus to your front row. If you personalize, it's a 25k plus. Again, those little 5s changes the guarding value, changing your prison dragon without a dragon marker from 35 to 40, with dragon marker from 40 to 45, and that little tweaks already changes a lot of things again. So it's a good card, and it brings something back, which allows you to use a shadow click to bounce those units back, because we are not like using the resentment to look at 3 to ditch 1 and then call 1 out and bounce back, because that costs a soul, which you're using for these 2. So just bring back what you already have from the drop zone is still great, and this makes you to soul blast a lot more freely, because you have choices that you can actually bring back and then bounce back to your hand to reuse, so you don't feel that worried. And it can bring this back so that you can generate a dragon marker and prepare for this. So still good, but the chances that I'm using this card is way less than when I'm using the Red Zorga, because a lot of times I'm doing 2 orders that does not give you a cost, for example this and this, so that I can just save my cost for other stuff, and even if my opponent damage deny me, I can still make sure myself to be able to do Alchemy Magic. And then E-Rendering Souls, if you want to chase back damage through more drive checks, rather than squeeze your deck by a bit, or when you actually want to turn order cards into something that may be good for your defensive, this is a good card. Only 1, because I only use it once or twice to try to chase, to apply pressure to my opponent even when they are 3 damage. If I'm going for 3 drive checks and there isn't a lot of crits coming out, they will start to be worried, because they don't just want to see a double crit and go home. So of course if they're willing to take it and you pull it off, then that's even better, right? But having more drive checks sometimes really save us, and sometimes when we are not having the cost like the counterblast to use this, when you have this in hand, then you just use this plus another non-counterblasting soul blasting orders to still be threatening. Because in the past, even when we are using E-Rendering Souls, if we are not using like Miasma or GDR, we aren't pumping the power to a level that actually threatening, and our Vanguard is always the weakest, so even the triple drive won't be that much of a problem. But now we have the power, so extra drive is actually helping us a lot. And then of course we just love this order, right? So Tier 4 Malice, this is the promo version, and we just sometimes have a lot of units that we want to pop. For example, Prison Dragons that we can't kill, and we don't want to call cards from hand which are triggers on top of them. or we don't actually have units that we can call on them, then the Tifo Malice is helping you out. And Tifo Malice allows you to gain an extra counter blast because you will counter charge one unless you don't have any damage at all. You get a draw, you get an extra soul, which also helps you to just soul blast them out, so you can reuse those orders, and allows you to have the extra counter blast when you want to do your 4 attacks, or maybe when you want to use your cow, because this will provide you 1 counter blast, 1 soul. So you just call the cow, counter blast 1, and soul blast this out. Then you can pick up an order which can be this card, so you can reuse it for the next turn and just keep the cycle going. And next is another promo card. So this one is the Mystiarch Habitat. So this is a book promo that's actually for the Mystiarch deck, but this card completely replaced Frozen Resentment, because for Frozen Resentment you need to soul blast one that's heavy when we are having soul usage for some other cards, and it only look at 3 and put 1 into your drop and then you call it back, right? But now this card directly looks 7 cards and call a unit that is with the same grade or below your Vanguard onto the field, and this directly can bounce back by a Shadow Cloak. So, and it's free. So this card appears, a lot of people actually just drop Frozen Resentment at all, and it really saves you, because you can see this doesn't use any counter blast, this only 2 units, so it doesn't use counter blast, this doesn't use counter blast, this one doesn't use counter blast, this one also doesn't use counter blast. So you can see a lot of order cards. When we are playing Zorga before, we always need to, like, okay, I'm going to counter blast 2, I'm going to counter blast 1, soul blast 1, I'm going to soul blast 2. That's a lot. But now a lot of the cards doesn't cost you, so you have a lot of free resources to do whatever you want, which is really great. It's just like Eva, when you first playing Eva without the promo, you don't have enough counter blast, you don't have enough soul blast, you don't have enough of the key cards you want. But with the order, it brings you a counter charge, it brings you a soul charge, so that you can do a lot of things, and giving you a lot more free resources or extra resources to do what you want. And the concept is kind of the same, that we cut the cost needed with our orders while still being threatening with these orders, and we have more resources to do whatever we want, which is to be defensive, to do extra attacks, so we're more flexible with a lot of things. And to conclude with our orders, there is a Sweets that become an evil dream, and overcoming the unnatural death. Now this I probably will only be doing 1 time, because it will bind itself anyway, but you get to pick 2 orders back up, which sometimes it's a card that's going to save you, and this card helps you to just pick 2 order cards from your drop zone. So these 2 Blitz order, you can still get a chance to reuse them, which more and more Zorga players in different Zorga builds are actually using this card. Some people are also using like the pot upgrade, but I see I actually need to wait too long. I even tried to put that card in there, but I don't see myself using it that often. Maybe I'm just not good at using that card, so I just take it out for an extra mask, which I feel more comfortable that way. And Sweets that become an evil dream is an extra draw, and allows you to maybe digicard to the drop, or maybe pull a guaranteed trigger when you're attacking. So this both ways also gives you good stuff, but only use it like once max per game. And when I'm considering cards to ditch with my Shadow Cloak, they're usually not the top priority. My top priority will be this, usually. So the regular piece, Tearful Madness, and my mask. Usually at these three. Maybe this one sometimes, so that I can guarantee I don't use a lot of cost. And sometimes this is what we need to go into Zorga Masque. So there we go. But if you do have like spare counterblast to do that, sometimes it gives you a very good return, which helps you a lot. Now triggers. One of the foul notes. While we get Prison Dragons to attack 2 times with high power, that's already way better than the like what we usually use is the Wikia over trigger. Even though that is still very powerful, but when your Prison Dragon can attack 2 times just by that, it's already changing things. So we just love it. And then for the Soaring crit, sadly I only have 2 of the Ura ones. I still need 2 more, which I will work hard for it. And then 3 more crits. And then 4 fronts. I still prefer more 20k fronts than having 8 crit, because the defensive is actually helpful, and I sometimes use my Vanguard to attack first, and that front triggers always make my opponents feel very sad because they guard for a bit and I go with fronts and another trigger to annoy them, or when they PG it and I just go for 2 fronts and now they need to give me more cards to defend themselves because they are usually the Prison Dragons, and that's how I win. Also the 20k shield is of course very helpful. I will need to look for 2 more of these. Hopefully I will get there very soon. We'll see. And then 3 of the normal heals and 1 of the preferring crit heals, because I think the Gandiva and Dragil is more of a problem that I need to face instead of restands, because I don't see a lot of restands. I usually see like replacements, so they are not attacking more than 1 time. Like those units are not doing that, so I'm not using that one. But if you prefer that one, you can use that as well. And some people are actually using 2 of the heal slot for the effect heals that they want to use. That's fine as well. I'm not against that. I probably might change one into a preference multiple attacking ones, so that I have choices, and because I have ways to bounce them back, so I can keep reusing them. But bouncing this back and keep using it is still always great. So yeah, it's really up to you what you want with your heals, but so far 1 to 2 slots for this I think is still very great to work already. Yeah, so that's it for the deck list, and I've explained a lot of the choices. So I think the video is long enough, so I'm not going to make it even longer. If you, again, always, if you have any questions on this deck or any other decks that I play, you can always comment down below. Let me know your questions. Happy to answer them. A lot of people thinking playing Zorga will burn your brain, but because I play too much of Zorga, I'm just like know most of the roots, so I don't burn my brain that much. And this actually didn't burn my brain so much that I am having a headache. Some people do, but you do need to think a lot, because with Zorga, when you start building the deck, it's already kind of decided your fates, and after that is how well you play the deck, how you get used to playing with the deck. That's another changes. So being a good Zorga player is not easy, but compared to before that, you need to do a lot more extra work. Now with Zorga Masque, you at least get a simple power boost. You just need to do things a lot normally, and this can still bring you victory and sometimes go into tops. So have fun with Zorga, as I always do, and just enjoy it. When we have good support, Zorga can go top. If we don't have good support, we'll try to make it that way. That's when you are playing a Zorga deck, being a Zorga player, you always are looking for orders that might be helpful in the deck. So this deck may still evolve. We'll see in the future, and when there are more choices available and I think it's a good update, then we'll do another deck profile. Yeah. So again, any questions? Comments down below. Subscribe for more deck profiles, deck fights, unboxings, and I will see you guys in the next video. Signing off.